Have you ever looked at your life and thought, why does this keep happening to me? Different people, different places, different years, but somehow the same ending, the same relationship dynamic, the same self-sabotage, the same emotional crash. You promise yourself this time will be different. You become more aware, more careful, more rational, and yet the pattern returns. According to Carl Jung, this is not bad luck. It is not weakness, and it is definitely not coincidence. It is the unconscious repeating itself until it is made conscious. Today, we're going deep into why you repeat the same patterns, why awareness alone is not enough, and why Carl Jung believed most people live trapped in loops they don't even know exist. This is uncomfortable knowledge, but it might be the most important thing you ever understand about yourself. The pattern you don't see is the one controlling you. Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This single sentence explains more about human suffering than entire libraries of self-help books. You do not repeat patterns because you choose them. You repeat them because you are blind to them. From Carl Jung's perspective, the unconscious mind is not passive. It is active, intelligent, and goal-oriented, and its primary goal is psychological balance, not happiness. If a certain emotional wound has never been processed, the psyche will recreate situations that mirror that wound, not to punish you, but to force awareness. This is why people raised in emotionally unavailable homes often end up in emotionally unavailable relationships. Why those who felt unseen as children seek validation endlessly. Why people who fear abandonment unconsciously choose partners who leave. The unconscious doesn't speak in words. It speaks in patterns. Why awareness alone doesn't break the cycle. Many people discover their pattern and still repeat it. They say, "I know I do this. I understand where it comes from. I've worked on myself," and yet nothing changes. Carl Jung warned that intellectual insight is not transformation. Knowing about a pattern is not the same as integrating it. Why? Because patterns are emotional structures, not logical ones. You can logically understand that a relationship is unhealthy and still feel magnetically drawn to it. You can rationally see that a habit is destructive and still feel comfort inside it. That's because patterns live in the emotional memory of the nervous system, not in conscious thought. Carl Jung believed real change only happens when insight reaches the level of felt experience. Until then, awareness becomes just another illusion of control. The shadow, the part of you you keep running from. At the core of repeated patterns lies one of Carl Jung's most famous concepts, the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is not immoral. It is simply the parts of you that were rejected, suppressed, or disowned. Traits you were told were unacceptable. Emotions you were punished for expressing. Needs that were never met. These parts do not disappear. They sink into the unconscious. And what is unconscious does not stay silent. It expresses itself indirectly, through projection, through compulsion, through repetition. If you suppress anger, you will attract aggressive people. If you deny your need for love, you will chase it obsessively. If you reject your vulnerability, you will sabotage intimacy. The shadow does not want to destroy you. It wants to be recognized. Projection. Why you keep meeting the same people. One of the most disturbing ideas Carl Jung proposed is this: you are not really seeing people as they are. You are seeing your unconscious projected onto them. Projection is how the psyche externalizes what it cannot accept internally. The traits you admire intensely in others. The behaviors that trigger you disproportionately. The people who feel strangely familiar from the first moment. These are not accidents. They are mirrors. This is why you keep meeting the same person in different bodies. You are not choosing them randomly. Your unconscious is choosing what feels unresolved. Until the projection is withdrawn, until you reclaim those qualities as part of yourself, the pattern repeats. Different face, same psychological role. The comfort of the familiar, even when it hurts. Here is a hard truth Carl Jung understood deeply. The psyche prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar freedom. What you know feels safer than what you don't, even if what you know is destructive. If chaos was familiar in childhood, calm will feel boring or suspicious. If love was inconsistent, stability may feel emotionally flat. If approval had to be earned, peace may feel undeserved. Patterns persist because they feel like home. Breaking them doesn't just require courage. It requires tolerating psychological disorientation, and most people unconsciously avoid that at all costs. Why you resist. Change more than you think. Carl Jung believed that the ego's greatest fear is not suffering, it is ego death. Changing a pattern means losing an identity. If you stop being the caretaker, who are you? If you stop chasing validation, what motivates you? If you stop being the wounded one, what story do you tell about yourself? Patterns give meaning, even painful meaning, and the ego clings to meaning more than comfort. This is why real transformation often feels like grief. You are not just changing behavior, you are mourning an old version of yourself. Individuation, the only real way out. Carl Jung called the process of breaking unconscious patterns individuation, not becoming perfect, not becoming positive, but becoming whole. Individuation means integrating the shadow, withdrawing projections, and accepting internal contradictions. It is not about eliminating darkness. It is about owning it consciously. When a pattern is integrated, it loses its compulsive power. You can still feel the impulse, but you are no longer controlled by it. Freedom, in Carl Jung's view, was never about eliminating inner conflict. It was about relating to it consciously. Why most people never break their patterns. Carl Jung was not optimistic about mass awakening. He believed most people live and die without ever meeting themselves. Why? Because facing the unconscious requires humility, patience, and emotional courage, qualities modern culture does not reward. It is easier to blame others, easier to repeat the story, easier to stay unconscious, but the cost is paid silently. In relationships, in meaning, in inner emptiness. Patterns don't disappear with time. They solidify. The moment the pattern loses its power. There is a specific moment Carl Jung described, a moment when repetition begins to weaken. It happens when you stop asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" and start asking, "What part of me needs this to happen?" That question shifts responsibility without shame. It opens curiosity instead of self-hatred. And curiosity is the doorway to integration, not force, not positivity, not discipline, but honest self-observation. The pattern is the message. According to Carl Jung, your life is not broken. It is speaking. Every repeated pattern is a message from the unconscious asking to be understood. Not fixed, not erased, but integrated. The moment you stop fighting the pattern and start listening to what it protects, what it hides, and what it fears, that is the moment repetition begins to loosen its grip, and that is where real psychological freedom begins.